Hello everyone and welcome to this video where I'm going to show you some of the works that I am working on right now. So what I'm going to show you is basically a collection that I call Northern Lights, and it's a collection of paintings that I'm currently working on, and I'm working on that on the side of the drawings that I showed you in the previous video. And in a similar way to my drawings, this collection also has a bit of a deeper meaning, in the sense that when you're in the darkest moments of your life, whether that's through grief or hopelessness or depression or whatever it might be, things will get better. And that's basically what I've been needing lately as well. So putting that into a collection, or trying to kind of heal my own grief and stuff like that and get more hope or light into my life, that has been really meaningful to me when I've created these pieces. So what I'm going to show you today are basically just the works in progress that I have right now. And there are a couple of paintings that I'm going to show you. So this is one of them. And I really enjoyed going back to painting on canvas, which isn't something that I've done for quite some time. This is the first time I've done it since, I don't know, I was a teenager, I think. So it's been quite a while. So this is one of the pieces that I've made on canvas. And I actually started with a collage, but it's not very visible because I covered most of it up because I just got so into this kind of blue color, which is actually several layers of transparent paint. But you can see some of the mark making down here from the collage. Anyway, the rest of the painting is done with some pro markers that I've used to make some marks, and then I have some scratches that I've made with palette knives. Obviously this is a work in progress, so it is not finished. I do have some contrast that I like, and I do feel like there is some depth to it, but this is something that I will further develop. So this is another piece that I've also done on canvas, and I really like the mark making that I've done here. There's just something about this area that really appeals to me. I've also incorporated more of the complementary color to the blue one, which is orange. And I also like this area, but I'm not sure how much of it is going to be left when I'm done with this painting. Again, this is also a work in progress, so it's definitely not finished. I like the contrast as well. I think that's why I loved this idea of being inspired by the Northern Lights, because Northern Lights is basically lights that show up in darkness. So the contrast of having the light of the Northern Lights going into the darkness of the night, that was just really appealing to me. And it also represents this idea of, or this theme of, me wanting to find some light in the darkness of grief. So this whole collection was really based on that. Anyway, as I said, this is a work in progress, so it still has a few layers left that I'm going to do. But again, I made some marks with pro markers. I also added some texture with palette knives to create these interesting little pieces. I also like this area, this pinkish area. I'm probably going to save some of that as well. So this is a smaller piece, but it's also made on canvas. This is a piece that's in its very early stage. I basically haven't done that much to it. I've just put in some collage and done some marks and added in some darker shades or darker value so that I have that ready when I start to build more layers on top of this. Since this is so early on in the process of making this, I don't really have any areas that I like yet, and that's just something that's going to come up the more I work on this. This is also a piece that's in a very early stage. I have, just like the previous one I showed, I have some collage and I have just gone over with transparent paint, and that's basically it. I do like the edges with this mix of the blue and the more reddish paint, the more reddish color. I really like that combination. I'm not sure how much of that is going to be left at the end of this piece, but having at least something that's interesting to me this early on in the stage of making this is actually quite interesting, especially since I basically just start by just putting color on it. I don't think too much about it. I don't put too much pressure on myself to start. I just start. So there's usually not too much that I'm interested in at the beginning stages like this. It's just something that comes later on when I put more layers onto it. But to have these edges be something that interests me and that I like is just really interesting to me. So I will probably continue maybe a little bit with that color combination and maybe enhance it a bit more. I don't know. We will see when I continue with this piece. Then I have another one here, which is also a canvas piece. Like the ones previously, I began with some collage and then I went over with transparent paint. The only thing that I feel is lacking from this, oh, I also had some texture that I put in with gesso, I think, or modeling paste. I can't really remember. I think it was modeling paste, actually. But the next thing I'm probably going to add to this is mark making, and especially line. As you've seen in some of my previous paintings that I've just shown, line is something that I use because I really like playing around with lines, and that is something that I'm going to add to this one as well. So that's probably going to be the next stage or the next thing that I do add to this one. Again, this is not a finished piece either. This is just a work in progress and it still has some layers left. I also want to add more contrast in this one to have some areas that are a bit darker. So that's also something that I'm going to add to this one. And then I have a couple of pieces that I've painted on paper. So this is a A3 size. I'm not sure what I think about this painting. There are some lines that I like and there are some color combinations that I like. And there's also texture, which I like. But I'm not sure about... I feel like this one is in its ugly stage, which is something that I feel like I need to push through to get a piece that's somewhat appealing or something that I can at least learn something from. So I'm not so sure about this piece. Maybe I will just use this as a piece where I can just experiment some things on. This is also one made on paper, and as you can see I have some collaged pieces in here and some line work. This is also very much at the early stage of creation. So I am going to cover up a lot of the collage. This is basically just transparent paint and I'm going to go in with opaque next. Again, since it's so early on in the stage, there's not really much that I like about this painting or that I'm that very interested in. That's just something that will develop as I build more layers on top of this. This is another one where I started with collage. I think this was some purple paper that I put in, that I collaged in, and that is kind of given this interesting effect here that I really like. I also have some line, but I'm not really sure where this is going. This, I feel like, is also one of those more experimental pieces where I just try out different things to see what I like, just with the previous one and the big one that I showed. Because I feel like experimenting a bit like this shows me what I like and what I don't like with my artworks and with my way of painting and the colors that I use and things like that. And it also gives me ideas that I can further develop into something else or something entirely different and new. Even though this might not turn into an actual art piece, it's still something that will give me other ideas and teach me some lessons and things like that. So it's definitely something that I'm going to keep working on, but it might be that it doesn't even turn into anything other than lessons to be learned, which is fine. This is the last work in progress that I have in this collection that I'm working on right now, and this is a little bit different than the previous ones that I've showed you. I have some circles in here as well and some more texture. I really like this part. That's probably something that I'm going to save for as long as possible. I also have some mark making, which I find to be really interesting. I think this was one of the pieces where I quite early on decided to just be an experimental piece for me. I think I just started with an underpainting that I wasn't that very inspired by or that I didn't like so much, and then that kind of just developed into a piece where I just did some different experimentations on. And it's interesting that it has a lot of pieces that I really like, and overall it has become really a place where I just test new ideas to see what works and what doesn't, and see what piques my interest so that I can further develop that into something that might be more interesting or beautiful or whatever. Anyway, so that is the collection that I'm working on right now, besides from the collection of drawings that I showed you in the previous video. I'm not sure how big this collection is going to be or how many pieces I'm going to have into it and what I'm going to do with it later on, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to turn them into prints. When that will happen and what that will look like is not something I've decided on yet. However, if you want to be the first to know when the prints will be available, then I suggest that you sign up to my email list, and you can find that link in the description box below. So that's it for this video. I hope this has been interesting, and if you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. Until next time, happy creating!